Okay, I'm recording for Monday, July 7th, Avodah Zarah Yud Tes 19, and we begin at the bottom of 18b, 6 lines from the bottom. Darash Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi. Rabbi Shimon ben Pazi taught. Ashri Oish Asher Lo Halach B'Asas Rishayim. This is a pasuk from Tehillim. Happy or fortunate is the man who did not walk in the in Asas Rishayim, in the advice of the wicked. This is referring to Zesh Lo Halach Lo Tartios ule Kirkisios shel Odei Kochavim. This is someone who never attended theaters and circuses of the Odei Kochavim. Uvidar Chatoim lo Amad, didn't stand in the way of sin. Zeh shelo Amad be Kinigion, someone who never stood at, is translated here, a hunt. Uva Moshav Leitzim Layashav, and didn't sit in a Moshav Leitzim, in a settlement of jesters. Shalo Yoshav B'Tachbulos, someone who never sat in some kind of a performance. Shama Yomar Adam Hoel V'Lahalachlu Tartios L'Kirkasos L'Amati B'Kinigion. So unless the person say, "Well, I never went to the theater, I never went to these to the circus," so Elech Viskar B'Shena. So now I'm good. Like, I don't have to do anything good. I can just indulge myself by sleeping all day, and I'll be a good person. So Talmud Lomar, so Torah says at the end of that pasuk, "V'Torah." So yeah, Yom V'Layla, but he works in the Torah of Hashem day and night. So there's a positive thing you have to do. Not only do you have to be surmei ra, that you not follow lazy or wicked or just negative things, but you have to indulge in positive things in learning Torah. The same pasuk, this refers to Abraham. Who did not participate in the building of the Tower of Babel. Those people were wicked. The whole story is they wanted to build a city and displace God or whatever. What is and that is an Eitzah, so that's Atzas, that is Atzas, the halach shel halach ba'atzas r'shayim. What is referred to by didn't stand in the way of sins. Also Avram, who didn't stand with Sodom. They were sinners. It says specifically the people of Sodom were chataim, were sinful. Also applies to Abraham, the Moshav Leitzim. He didn't participate with the Plishtim because they were jesters. Shenemar. These same Plishtim, generations later, of course, they wanted Shimshon, their captive, to perform for them. Ashrei, next pasuk. Ashrei ish yirei Hashem. Happy is the person who is God-fearing. Ashrei isha. Well, why man, not woman? Amar of Amram says, Ashrei misha osa teshuva kishehu ish. It's not excluding women. Ish here is intended to designate a person who has strength. And it's referring to someone who does tshuva in his youth when he still has strength. In other words, my understanding is that he has the strength to sin again if he wished to. He has the same kind of desires and the same ability, but he does not do so. That's tshuva. And so it's an ish, someone who still has his strength is the one who is happy that he can do tshuva, if he does tshuva. Rabbi Shua ben Levi Amar, Ashrei Misha Mizgaber El Yisro Ki'ish. Also, similar designation of strength. The ish refers to someone being strong, but it means someone who overcomes his Yetzer Hara. Okay, mitzvosav chafetz v'yod. That pasuk continues that he desires God's commandments very much. Amar b'Elazar b'mitzvosav below b'schar mitzvah. So when the person who is fortunate is the one who desires the mitzvahs themselves, not the reward for the mitzvahs, but the mitzvahs themselves. The that's what the Mishnah teaches. Hu Omer Antignas ish socho tat altiu kavadim shamshin sarav al nasmul kalapras. Don't be like servants who work for their salary. Ella hayu kavadim shamshin sarav shalom nasmul kalapras. Be selfless and work as if you were a volunteer. Work for the love of the work. Ki b'toras Hashem chavtza, the pasuk of Tehillim continues. Rather, his desire is for the Torah of Hashem. Amar Rabbi, and Adam lami Torah el mivakom sheli b'chafetz. This indicates that there has to be chavtza, there has to be desire. You have to want to learn from in a place or from a person. Shenamar ki b'toras Hashem chavtza. Levi Rabbi Shimon Barabi, Yasvi Kami de Rabbi. Levi and Rabbi Shimon were sitting before Rabbi, who was their teacher, V'kapaski Sidra, and they were studying Chumash or Tanakh. Solik Sifra, they finished one book, and what are they going to do next? Levi Amar Laitula and Mishlei. I want to learn Mishlei next. Rabbi Shimon, Rabbi Amar Laitula and Tehillim. I want to learn Tehillim next. Kaifil Levi. So Rabbi Shimon won. They decided to learn Tehillim, and he forced Levi, basically. He doesn't say how. Vice with Tehillim, and they started learning Tehillim. Kimatu Hach, when they got to this pasuk, Kipatar Hashem Chavso, Parish Rabbi V'Yamar, Rabbi explained, what we just learned, that you have to learn Torah you can only learn Torah if you want to, from a place that you want to. Amar Levi says, Rabbi, Nasata lana reshus lamod. Now I can skip class, because you just said, look, I never wanted to learn Tehillim, I wanted to learn Mishlei, so you're giving me license to cut class. Amar Rav Dimi Bar Chama. Probably he was speaking in jest, but whatever, he is turning Rabbi's words against him. Amar Rav Dimi Bar Chama. Kol ha'osik b'Torah, and whoever studies Torah, Kadosh Baruch Hu osel chafasav. God will take care of what you want. Will give you your desires. Kim b'sar Hashem, or kim b'sar Hashem chafso. Through the Torah of Hashem, you'll get your desires. Is another way of interpreting that pasuk. Amar Rava. Li'olam yilmod adam Torah b'makom sheli b'chafetz. Getting back to this idea, you should learn in a place where you wish to learn. Shenamar kim b'sar Hashem chafso. From that pasuk. Amar Rava. B'chila nikra yisal shmo shal HaKadosh Baruch Hu. First, when you learn Torah, then it's God's Torah. Ulbasov Nikres El Shmo, and then after you've done it for a while, it's called your Torah. Shenemar b'Torah Hashem Chavso uV'Torah So Yegei Yom V'Layla. So it's God's Torah that you desire, and it's your Torah that you learn day and night. Rava says the third thing: Liolam Yilmad Adam Torah. First, you should learn. You should learn Torah, and then you should delve into it. In other words, first do Bekius and then do Iyun. Shout out to the Daf Yomi people. Shenemar b'Torah Hashem. In fact, I will say that what attracted me to Daf Yomi, I don't know, when I started doing it, I guess maybe 15 or more years ago, I came to a point where I had a good yeshiva education, and I knew how to delve into a page of Gemara, but there were probably the large majority of Gemara I'd never encountered. So I wanted to get like a broad overview. This Gemara is saying you should do that first, and then, which makes sense, and then get into the details. V'yamarava. So how do we know that? Shenemar b'Torah Hashem uv'adar b'Torah So Yega. First it says b'Torah Hashem Chav. So do your desire is for the Torah of Hashem, and then it says Yega. Then it says afterwards it says you should delve into it day and night. You should continue to study, even though you're going to forget. This happens to everybody. You learn something, you forget. Still, you should keep at it. Even if you don't understand what you're reading, you should still learn Torah. Shnamar Garsa Nafshi Latava. My soul is broken with desire. Garsa ksiv lo ksiv tachana. It's written shattered and not broken and not ground up. Um, so uh, so like uh, grease is when you crack a grain into pieces, and litchon, to grind, is to mill it into flour. So I think the idea here is that just cracking grain is the superficial learning, and grinding it into fine flour is the is the more deeply more analytical and more deeper uh, study of the Torah. Rava asked, Siv al gape, um, that the students sit on al gape, on the wings of the city. Uksiv al kisei, and it also says on the throne or a chair. So, what is Torah seen as a chair as opposed to wings? You think wings is better? Um, so he answers, "B'tchila agape." First, you sit on wings. Wings meaning you're traveling. You're going from place to place to find the place that you're going to learn best. Then you sit on a chair and in the base medrash that you choose, and then you really learn your Torah. Ksiv Barosh Meromim. It says that Torah is at the heights, at the top of the heights. Ksiv Aliderech, but it also says it's on the path. So what is it? B'tchila Barosh Meromim. First, um, um, it seems like very far away, but then once you get into it, then it's like Ali Derech. Then it's like a path that you're following. It's not intimidating to see that there's this huge body of work of the Torah that's endless, it's infinite. It just seems very intimidating, but once you start doing it, you're on the path, then you become more comfortable with it. Ula Rame, Ksiv Shesei Mayim Mibarecha. It's written, drink water from your bar, from your well. Uksiv v'nozli mitoch be'erecha. And it also says water flowing from your well. So the bore is not a well. I'm sorry. It's a reservoir, a cistern. So is Torah like drinking from a cistern or from a well? So the answer is b'tchila shesei mibarecha. First, when you first start learning, it's like drinking from a cistern. Um, it doesn't, a cistern is a reservoir, right? It's not renewable, it's not flowing, it's not live water. You can just it seems like you're just drawing from your teachers whatever they have you can get, but in the end, once you become a Talmid Chacham, then you are kind of tapping into flowing water, into the Torah that flows from the divine. Uh, Rava said, "My dichsiv hon mehevel yimat v'koves al yad yarbe." Wealth is gained from nothingness, or through nothingness, and that will diminish. The koves al yad yirbe, wealth that's gathered by hand, will increase. So what does this mean? If you make like big bundles of Torah, in other words, you take on too much at once, mismait, you're actually going to diminish in Torah. But if you build, handful by handful, you do piece by piece, and you really understand what you're doing, yarbe, then you will increase your knowledge of Torah. Amar Rava, Yodei Rabban Elohim Milsa. The rabbis know this, v'yavrehela, and they don't do it. Right? It's too tempting to kind of try to take these big chunks of material and try to digest them in a short time. So even though you know better, even though the rabbis know better, they can't help themselves. I actually did this piece by, did the piece by piece, the small chunks theory. And guess what? It worked for me. I was able to retain my Torah. Amar Rav Shizvi Mishmei de Rav Elazar ben Azariah. Shizvi said, "My dichsiv lo yacharach remiyat seda." A remiyah, a cheating person, won't be able to roast what he catches. in the hunt. What does this mean? Lo yichyev lo yarich yamim saya haramai. It means he won't last very long. Uh, he won't be able to roast what he catches because he won't survive that long. And the metaphor is to Torah. If you're just trying to be deceitful, you're just trying to show off knowledge without attaining knowledge, let's say, then you're not going to reap the rewards. Rav Sheshes Amar Tzayat Haramai Yachrach. Won't he? It should be understood as a question, right? Won't he be able to roast what he catches? So he's seeing it as a positive thing that if you plan well, it doesn't mean cheating really in a negative sense. It means if you employ a clever methodology, then you will be successful in eating your catch. In other words, in getting benefit from your Torah. Here's Rav Dimi. When Rav Dimi came from Eretz Yisrael, Amar, he said, Mashal Yom Shetzad Siparin. Here's a parable of a person who is trapping birds. In Mishaber Knafel Shal Rishon, if he breaks the wings of the first, you trap one bird, and then you break its wings so it can't get away, and then you go to the next one. You get to keep all the birds you catch, but if you catch a bird and then you turn your attention to catch another bird, you're going to lose the first bird. It's going to fly away. So the same thing with Torah. Learn something, consolidate it in your mind, like make sure that you keep it, and then move on to the next thing. Going back to the beginning of Tehillim, the first pasuk in Tehillim that we studied, that person, Ashrei Shasher Lo Halach Basas Shayim Ki Mutar Hashem Chafso. What happens to that person? He'll be like a tree rooted by a stream. Amar Dvei Rav Yanai. They said in Rav Yanai's yeshiva, Ke'etz Shasu, like a tree that's planted, Velo Ke'etz Natua. A tree that's rooted and not like a tree that's planted. If you learn Torah only from one teacher, so roots are spread in multiple directions, right? If you just plant a tree, then at the beginning it's only drawing its nourishment from that one place where you planted it. As it grows and develops, it develops a root system and draws nourishment from many places. That's how you should learn Torah as well. By the way, our Daf Yomi, we have 3 different teachers, so maybe we're behind that. Amar Luhu Rav Chizah L'Ravana. Rav Chizah said to rabbis, Be'ina de'ema luchu milsa. I want to tell you something. Umistafina deshaviku livaz lisu. I want to tell you something. I'm afraid that once I tell you, you're going to abandon me. You'll go somewhere else. In other words, you'll leave my shir. Kol halome Torah mirav echad ein rasim rachiel. If you only learn from one teacher, you're not going to profit from it. Shavku v'azul kame derabah. So sure enough, they're like, okay, he says that we shouldn't only learn from one teacher. Let's go to the next. Let's go to Rabba's shir. Amar lahu hani mile sevara. No, he said you misunderstood. That applies to reasoning. Gemara, but learning, mastering material. Knowledge rather than intuition. If it's better to learn from one person, because presumably he'll give you, the way it's ordered in his mind, he'll be able to teach you a large body of work. It's only when it comes to logic and deductions that you should broaden your base of teachers, have different perspectives. So that, and why is it better to amass material from one person so you don't get contradictions, right? If you learn from 2 different people, you'll get 2 different you could get contradictory versions of things. So like first learn the large body of material with one person and then expand your teachers in how to approach that or how to analyze that material. Al Palgemayim. So the Tehillim said you'll be like a tree on springs of water or streams of water. You should divide your time into 3. your years, literally, into three. Shlish b'mikra, shlish b'mishnah, shlish b'talmud. A third of your time on this earth should be spent studying Tanakh, a third Mishnah, and a third Gemara. So assuming that it's like, okay, if you're going to live 120 years, spend the first 40 years learning Tanakh, the next 40 learning Mishnah, the next 40 learning Gemara. But how do you know you're going to live 120 years? Maybe you'll die at 60 and you'll never get through the Mishnah. Ki kamrinam biyome. Now we're talking about split your days this way. So presumably different ways of looking at this, but a third of your time every day learning should be Tanakh, a third should be Mishnah, a third should be Gemara. So that way you'll get a well-rounded, you'll be exposed to all these three different things. This does, by the way, somewhat contradict what we said before, that first you should learn, a large body of material. Maybe it doesn't contradict, but it's, what makes sense is, whatever, you can all decide for yourselves what makes sense based on this Gemara. Asher Piriyayitim Bito. The pasuk continues, the tree, you're going to be like the tree on water that gives its fruit in the right time. Amarava imperio yitem bito. If you give your fruit in the right time, violeo, then the result is the next phrase, which is your leaves will not wither. V'chol sheyasi yatzliach is the end of it, and everything you do will be successful. Bim lav, but if you don't give your fruit in the right time, in other words, if you don't follow the right schedule of learning, Al halome v'al hamalamed aleim hakasuv omer lochin ershayim kiim. The continuation is not so. All these nice things will happen to the ish asher lohalach b'asas rishayim v'taraso yega, etc., etc. Lochin hershayim. It continues, not so are the wicked, and it continues with what the wicked are like. So that refers to someone who does not follow the prescriptions of how to spend your time learning. She has killed many corpses, felled many corpses. This refers to, who's considered to be causing death, basically. Someone who teaches, not teaches, but determines halacha, does psak when he's not ready. Vatsumim kol harugeha, and all of those you kill are mighty or strong. Zetami shegil or mara. This is someone who is ready to do psak, but he doesn't. Viad kama. So how do you know you're ready? Adar mentioning 40 years of learning, then you're ready to be a pasuk. Rava, but what about Rava? Rava only lived to be 40, right? And he was a posek for sure. He was one of the most prolific authors of the Gemara, or those who are quoted in the Gemara. So clearly he was ready before he had learned for 40 years. Hasam b'shavim. There it's different. They're equal, right? In Rava's, where Rava lived. No, well, Hassan, sorry. And when do we say that you have to wait? You have to study 40 years before you can be a posek. That's if there's somebody else who can do it. But if there's nobody else who can do it, or if everyone else there is equal to you, but if you're greater than everyone else, even though you haven't studied 40 years, but you're already better than, wiser and more learned than everybody else around who's available to do the psak, then you have to do the psak, even though you haven't studied for 40 years. Going back to the pasuk, the leaves will not wither. Amaravacha bar Adam Arav. Ravacha said, "V'amrei la," or some thought it was Amaravacha bar Abba Amarav, Hamnuna Amarav. Shafilu sichas chulin shel talmidei chachamim tzricha b'talmud. Even like regular conversations of talmidei chachamim, you have to study that. Study what they're saying. Shenamar v'aleu la'ibo v'chol asher yasa yatzliach. Leaves won't wither, and everything they do will be successful. So everything said by Talmud Chacham, even though it's not strictly speaking about Torah, still is worth is part of his success and is worth study. Amar Shubin Levi, Dar is the Chasub Torah, is written in the Torah, Shani ben Nevi'im, it's repeated in the prophets, and Mishulish B'Ksuvim, and said a third time in Ksuvim. Kol Osik B'Torah, Nechasav Matzlichin Lo. If you study Torah, if you engage in Torah, then your property will be successful for you. In other words, your investments will pan out well. Where do we see this? It's written in the Torah, you shall keep the words of this covenant and do them, so that you will succeed in everything that you do. So not just in Torah, but everything that you do will be successful. Shalom ben Nevi'im, it's repeated in Navi D'chsiv, Lo yamush sefer Torah hazem mipicha. This Torah will not leave your mouth. V'hagisa b'yom v'layla, study it day and night. L'man tishma asas v'chasa kasu bo, so that you should keep everything that's in it. Ki az tatzliach es darkecha v'az taskil. Then you will be successful. Meshulash b'ksuvim. So in other words, it's everything you do will be successful. It's written the third time in Ksuvim, D'chsiv, Ki b'taras Hashem chavtza. This is what the pasuk we just read. U'b'taras ha'yegem l'layla v'haya ke'etz shasul al pal gimayim asher pir yitim b'ito v'lo v'chol asher yaseh yatzliach. Everything you do will be successful if you are studying Torah. Ma'achor Rav Alexandrai. Rabbi Alexandrai announced, Man bai chai, man bai chai. He would walk around saying, who wants to buy life? He's walking around the marketplace offering his wares for sale. Life. He's offering life. So everybody wants life. So they all come around his stall in the marketplace. And how much is life? Amrulay, Havlon Chai. They say, sell it to us. Give us life. Amrulu, he said to them, the Torah tells you, or the Ksuvim tell you, you want life. Guard your tongue from evil. And Surmeira Vasei Tov. The continuation of that is veer off from evil and do good. That's how you're going to be chafetz chaim. That's how you're going to get life. Shama Yomar Adam, this is coming back to what we started with today. Lest you say, okay, I will refrain from speaking evil. I'll go indulge in sleep. I don't have to do anything positive. No, you have to go keep from evil, but do good. It's an active part of being good also. What is good? Good is Torah. I've given you good merchandise. My Torah do not forsake. Higia lakipa makom shemamidim ba'avodas kachavim. Okay, enough. That's all of that I got. And back to the Mishnah. It said if you get to you're building a bathhouse, and you get to the part where they place the idol, right? There's like an atrium in the middle or a dome where the idol is going to be placed. So you can't continue building there. Now, Amar Lazar, Amar Yochanan, Imbana Scharo Mutar. If you did go ahead and you kept with your construction job, and you built this atrium for the idol, then you can still you can spend your paycheck. It's fine. Pshita, it's obvious. Why? Because you're not building an idol. You're building a mishamesh, something that's in the service of the idol. It's like the place for the idol to be placed. Both according to Rabbi Shmuel and Rabbi Akiva, it's that it hasn't been used yet. You're still building it. It hasn't been used yet for the worship of an idol. The idol probably hasn't even been placed there. So until it's been used for Avodah Zarah, there's no problem with it. So of course you can take your salary. Amar Yirmiyah lo nizrucha l'avodas kachavim atzma. Now what the Mishnah is talking about is building the idol itself. So the idol itself, maybe there is a problem with building the idol itself even before it's been worshipped. But it's not that big of a problem that if you did it, you can still take your pay. So that is okay if you hold that the idol of a Jew that belongs to a Jew is forbidden as soon as it's created. But of a non-Jew, you have to wait until it's not a problem until they actually worship it. So Shapir. So then we can understand this construction of the idol. You can take your salary because presumably you're building it for a non-Jew, and so until the idol is actually worshipped, it's not a problem. But what about according to the opinion, which is Rabbi Akiva, that he says even if you're building it for a non-Jew, as soon as it's created, even if before it's been worshipped, it's still usher. It's still Avodah Zarah. So how can you use the money that you were paid for building it? Rabbi Barula, so Rabbi answered, We're only talking about the final blow of the hammer. Even if you're, even if you are, um, even if you're the one who does the final act of creation of this idol, so avodas kochavim man kagarim la. What's the what makes it into an idol? Gemar malacha, the end of the work, the last hammer blow. So ve'emas. So all the work you're doing before the end, it's not yet an idol. The Amos Havi Gemar Malach. And what is this? The last blow, but Makosh Achron, the last hammer blow. Makosh Achron Leisba Shava Pruta. So even if you're lucky, you're the only one working on this thing. So all the work you're doing, in fashioning this idol, it's nothing. Even if you say that you're not, that it's avodah zarah to build an idol, it's not an idol until the last blow. Okay, so you're building it yourself. All the work you're doing and getting paid for is not technically a problem because it's not yet an avodah zarah. Now you do the last hammer in the last nail. Okay, and now it's finished. So what about that? So that last act is not worth anything, right? It's not worth. You worked for a week on building this thing, and the last second, it's like less than the shovel pruta, that action. So you're not actually getting paid for that, as it were. Almost we see kasavar yeshna l'schirus mitchila v'yatzav, which indicates that the pay that you're getting is you're earning it all along. In other words, you're getting paid an hourly wage, so the money is connected to all the work you're doing. And in each second, or in each minute, or each hour, right? That's what the money that you're being paid is prorated to and attributed to. And then the last thing he's saying is like not worth anything. Reminds me of the guy who is the repair person who is called to repair a very complicated piece of machinery, and he studies the problem for a few minutes. He takes out a wrench and he bangs on it, and then it's working again. And he presents a bill for $10,000. And the guy says, "What, are you kidding? You were only there for 5 minutes. You just banged on it with a wrench. I should pay you $10,000." So he presents him with another itemized bill. It says $9,905 hammer, hitting the thing with a wrench. $9,995 knowing where to hit. Okay. So we'll pick up on Tuesday from the Mishnah at the bottom of 19b.